CBS Sports Radio 1300 is WJZ Baltimore. WJZ HD3 Catonsville, Baltimore. The flagship station for Towson Tiger football and Towson men's basketball.
The opinions expressed in the following paid program do not necessarily represent those of WJZ AM 1300, CBS Radio, its employees and sponsors. This is Coons Ford Terp Talk with Bruce Posner. 60 minutes of Maryland athletics and your phone calls at 410-481-1300. Now, here's Bruce Posner and Terp Talk.
All right, number one in the country for the women, undefeated, play Penn State tomorrow, and number two in the country for the Maryland men. Wayne, after what I think was one of the best weeks in recent memory for Maryland men's lacrosse, when you defeat number one Penn State, number 5 Albany, who I really believe is the best team they've played this year, for what it's worth, and then they defeat number 11 Rutgers on the road, that game in overtime, triple overtime, and that's 3 games in 8 days. Now, what else happens 3 games in 8 days?
Some sort of tournament generally happens,
Right.
and we've been blamed that we got tired, so this is a good test for that tournament. Bruce, what happened at Albany that was one of the biggest games they ever had? What was the focus on this one?
Well, here's the thing. Albany at the time was number 3 in the country, actually rated over Maryland. They were number 3 in the country. They have a guy who you and me knew the name, but we didn't know how good he was, and that's Connor Fields. Maryland put the kitchen sink on him. Connor Fields got 3 goals and 5 assists. And the last play of the game, Maryland only sent 5 guys after him. They almost killed him. He still got off the pass, but Danny Morris came up big like he has in almost every game. He starts slow, comes up big.
He comes up big at the end. He had a pretty poor start up in Piscataway, and to me, that's been the weak link. Can he put an entire game together? You're going to need that when you get to the tournament. So he goes from a weak first quarter to being a National Player of the Week. How does he look to you?
To me, he looks, when he's on, there's nobody I'd rather have. He made some stops you saw it, Wayne. He made some stops on Sunday when the game was on the line in overtime that were they were mind-boggling that he could make the stop. Guys coming around the cage, they were beating our defense, Rutgers was, and what a tough loss for Rutgers. I'll tell you a funny story, Wayne. I was at the Hopkins-Penn State game on Saturday. Big game. Big game for Hopkins. They really needed it. They won. So I go up to Coach Petramalo afterwards. I congratulated him. And he said to me, this is his words, he said, "We really need you to win tomorrow night." That's unusual coming from Hopkins coach. But I didn't realize it, that by us winning, number one, Maryland was in, and Hopkins, all they have to do is beat Michigan to be in the tournament. And you say, well, that's not much. At one time, you had Penn State number 1, Ohio State number 4, and Rutgers number 6.
And Maryland was in the mix, and Michigan was 18 or 19.
Right. Maryland was down to 10 or 11, and so
Right.
was Hopkins. So at that point, if there was an odd team out, it was Maryland or Hopkins, but things change.
Well, the Blue Bloods now, whoever called the game, I guess that was the Virginia Hopkins. Did Virginia play Hopkins?
Yes.
And whether it was Quint or whoever said that the the Big Ten still goes through Hopkins and Maryland. That was weeks ago.
He said it went through Maryland. Mentioned Hopkins. But anyway, the Big Ten is 45-8. And when it comes to rankings, I hope the 5th place team in the Big Ten gets in. If it's Rutgers, how could Penn State not get in? I mean, it's almost impossible.
Well, you brought up who'd they play. And the answer is the games that they played against tough teams, they lost. They played
not Penn State. Penn State won it.
Michigan. I'm sorry, it was Michigan.
Michigan's not getting in. There's no way. All right? There's no way. All right? You can't lose every conference game and get in. And that's what they're headed to. Of course, you got to play the games. But I would be highly suspect if they beat Hopkins on Saturday. So that would make them 0-4. They're just not going to get in with that.
Well, before we go on to Maryland's Saturday matchup, what did you make of another stunning Syracuse comeback? This one was at North Carolina. Syracuse looked like they were done. Is Syracuse the luckiest team on the planet?
Nah, you're never lucky. You make your own luck. And Syracuse, Ben Williams, the face-off guy. By the way, Maryland on the face-offs against Rutgers, they were 10-20. I mean, Henningsen was beaten for lunch. I mean, he could not get a face-off.
And Garino?
Garino saying 0 for 4.
So those 8 in a row, and it still didn't do Maryland.
No, it still didn't do Maryland in because their defense is so good, and Danny Morris. But Ben Williams won every face-off. Syracuse scored the last 5 goals and then won the game, and it was almost unbelievable. And North Carolina is now in jeopardy of not making the tournament.
So how many teams win the national championship and come back and don't even make the tournament?
Well, that's something that could happen in the NCAA, or in the Super Bowl. But it doesn't happen in lacrosse, most likely, not to make the tournament. But they're in jeopardy. If they lose their final game, I forgot what it is, then they're basically out.
Well, I'll look it up in the break, but it's got to be Duke is what I'm thinking. You had to close with Duke.
No, they played Duke.
Ah.
They played Duke, and they lost to Duke. And I think they just lost to Notre Dame. They're in trouble. That's all I know is they're in trouble. But can't worry about them. But then they're a good team. They're definitely a good team. So what does this mean coming up? Ohio State. Now, Ohio State has had 2 big home games this year. They beat Denver 17-5. And then they beat Johns Hopkins pretty bad, like 13-9. So we know that this is going to be a brutal game for Maryland. 2 o'clock on Saturday. And we'll see what's up. Now, if Maryland wins, they guarantee themselves a share of the Big Ten regular season title, which is nice. They actually only have to win one of the last 2 games because everybody else has won. But no matter what happens, the game against Hopkins is big. No matter what happens.
So it's so big. Explain this to me because you've been doing this your whole life, and I'm interested, but I'm not as interested as you are.
Right.
Why do you have senior day at Maryland not be on the Hopkins day? Why?
Because, and it worked, they wanted, Hopkins is going to draw a crowd no matter what, right or wrong. If the weather's good, what are we going to have, 12 to 15? All right. I mean, last year I think they had 10, or the last time they were in Maryland, they had 10, and if I remember correctly, it rained all night, and it was cold. So they're going to have a big crowd, and I just think that it would take away from senior day if you did it with Hopkins, a game that has so many more meanings. When Maryland plays Hopkins, and of course next week is our Hopkins show, Hopkins week. When Maryland plays Hopkins, you look at what is Maryland's goals for the year. Obviously, the number 1 goal is to win the national championship. And then I'm telling you that there are many people who think the number 2 goal is beating Hopkins. More than winning the Big Ten, more than winning, a game like a big game during the year, beating Hopkins is everything. And it always takes me back to Paul Rabel, one of the greatest players in college history. Still a great player, a great guy as well. So there was a press conference after Hopkins beat Maryland on their second championship run. And this is after Rabel had won a title. And somebody asked a question to Rabel. How important was this game today against Maryland? His answer, the most important game I've ever played. Now, here's a guy who's won a national championship. Isn't that important?
Yeah, it's that important. It's always been that important to me, but I come in more of a fan. You're a lifer, and I'm more of a lacrosse fan. So the biggest game around here the whole time I've been growing up was Maryland Hopkins.
Yeah.
So that's just the game.
We go back 100 years with Maryland Hopkins, and it reminds me of I went to a game at Hopkins a few years back. Maryland's playing Hopkins. Hopkins needed the win. Who knows? Every game starts to jump on top of each other.
They all have their own stories.
Right, but there's so many of them I've been to. It's hard to segment. So I get to Hopkins, and they seat me outside on a gorgeous day, which was fine. So I'm sitting with a lot of Hopkins fans, and I'm typing away. I still had the internet. Hopkins is winning by 5, with 3 minutes left. And a couple Hopkins fans said to me, you think Hopkins is going to win this game? Yeah. That's what it means. Winning that game is so important. And I was there when Maryland really took down Hopkins at Annapolis to get into the Final Four. Going back 4 or 5 years, this was the second time in the season that they had beat Hopkins, which ain't that easy to do. Man, the Hopkins fans were on the team like I've never heard. I've never heard anything like it. They were, you've disgraced the Hopkins, because they lost to Maryland, to get to the Final Four. I mean, it's a bit of a stretch, a team that's won national championships on top of each other and with the same coach and the same people. But, wow, when they lose to Maryland, I think it's worse when Hopkins loses to Maryland.
Probably.
We don't hear it as much because we got that damn championship thing hanging over our head.
We do. As far as a Hopkins-Maryland, you get along with both. This isn't, to me, a Maryland-Penn State or a Maryland-Duke kind of thing. I
think it is. I really do.
To me, it's not. I don't have a deep-seated hatred
It's
for
because
that.
you know Petramala and you know he's a good guy, and it's like you know Tillman, and you don't hear.
They don't go at each other like that.
Well, they do. They do. They want to beat each other.
Yeah.
But they're not. You don't see them being separated, and it's not like that.
It's not like that.
Now it's been like that in the past because Dick Goodell, the big man. I'll tell Danny he'll love this. The greatest line ever by Dick Goodell. They're playing Hopkins, and we're going back to a time when Maryland played Hopkins, and there was like no playoffs, and maybe you picked the two best teams to play for the national title on the basis one of them is going to be that game, or even when there was only 4 teams, one of the winner of that game was going to be it because Maryland and Hopkins were always like undefeated or one loss. So Dick Goodell brings the team around, the big man, and he says, guys, all I can tell you is this. You better beat Hopkins today because you'll be working for him tomorrow. And that tells the story of Maryland and Hopkins. And then there was a time the Hopkins guys, 100 years ago or 80 years ago, can you believe this? They stole Testudo. They literally stole Testudo.
Oh, you're changing my mind right here live on there. If they stole my turtle, I don't like them anymore.
They stole Testudo and buried him at Hopkins.
Oh.
And it took the provost at Hopkins to get to the bottom of it to get Maryland back its turtle.
That's it. Mason,
you like that, Danny?
Get to the bottom of the hole to get the turtle out?
He had to bring people in and interrogate them to get it straightened out.
This is narrative. This is good narrative.
Not only is it bad, but if you bring on Sean Ellenby from Maryland and you bring on Ernie LaRosa from Hopkins, they will argue about the record of the Hopkins. You've heard this.
Oh, yes. That I've heard.
Hopkins claimed it won 5 more games than Maryland claims because at the time Maryland was a club team. I don't understand the argument, but it's never been settled. So in Hopkins' yearbook, all right, you have a different record for the series than in Maryland's yearbook.
Okay, that's a good rivalry. And now I'm starting to sweat. That's it. Mason has a Hop T-shirt. I'm going home, and I'm getting rid of the T-shirt. You are listening to
Coons for TerpTalk this Wednesday night. Every Wednesday night, we got Wayne Viner in the house, and Wayne, it's been a strange lacrosse season this year because it seems like we haven't had any games at home.
It's over. We got 1 game left. How'd that happen to us?
I don't know. We only had 6 home games, and a couple of them were bunched real quick. And before you know it, the home season was over, and you had a couple, you had Michigan, Penn State, and Hopkins coming up last. It's just been a strange season. But Tillman, God bless him. The coach, what's his name, Marr, all right, from Albany, was praising Tillman to the nth degree because he came to Albany. Syracuse never goes to Albany. Never. And Albany plays them every year. You know as well as I do. You watched the game. Maryland could have easily have lost that game.
Sure. They could have lost, and you said there are no easy wins at this time. They could have lost both the Albany game and the Rutgers game. I don't know what this week would have looked like then, but the lacrosse team does know how to win. Now, it might not cover over to the national championship game, but Tillman knows how to win, and I haven't seen more of a calm demeanor out of a guy under pressure than you get out of John Tillman.
Yeah, well, he believes in his guys, and it's nice when you have Matt Rambo. Because when you have Matt Rambo and a Connor Kelly.
And Heacock's not bad at the moment.
And Heacock and Bernhardt, and you got the guns. And now Rotance, what a senior year he's having. So it's Connor Kelly's only a junior.
Right, he's going to be a big guy next year.
He's going to be attacked.
Who do you think would get the number 1 jersey next year? Somebody jump out in your head as
it's got to be Bernhardt. It could have been Connor Kelly, but he's only got 1 year left. Mm-hmm. So I think that he's going to get it because he's like the future starting next year. That's a guess. Mm-hmm. And they got another attack kid coming in. There's other ones there too. You got Dubik, 32,
right,
who might step in. You got Bubba Fairman.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask about. Yeah. And one other guy that's had a fairly good season, Dylan Maltz. He's gone too.
He's going too.
When you say the weapons Maryland has,
well, listen, I honestly believe, like Danny was talking about before, that this might be the Orioles' year where they got to do it. All right, this is Maryland's year. All right, to me now, I'm not saying Tillman won't bring him back on top next year, but you and I both know it's not going to be an easy task at all. And when you lose Heacock, Maltz, Rambo, you're losing a lot. And last year you lost your midfield. So he's going to really have to rely on a lot of younger guys.
Well, it is a dynasty. He has done well in recruiting. This team continues to win, and every year we say, well, this year, they lost this part, that part, the other part.
That's because we talk to Tillman too much.
Right, because he downplays a little bit, and then they seem to catch fire and run through the schedule like they did this year. Now, they're going to play a rising. Again, Ohio State was 9 last week. They're 7 this week. They're 11-2. What is it about as we get close to the clock here?
Depth. They have depth. They can score from 100 different angles. Mm-hmm. They got a bunch of guys who can score, and something about them at home. If you remember the last time we were at Ohio State, it was the day of the football game.
Right.
The spring game.
They put about 100,000 people in the stands.
Right. Well, and guess what? They were winning 8-5 with 3 minutes left. Rambo took over. Mm-hmm. Maryland won 9-8. Well, that's not going to happen. It could happen. But the Ohio State team that I've seen, you can't do that. Maryland can't let them get ahead. You've got to get on top of them there. If we played them at Maryland, maybe it's a different story.
Well, but I saw them play Michigan on Saturday, and I watched the first quarter. It was somewhat close. I went away from the game to watch another spring football game, come back, it was 15-4. I mean, Ohio State just wiped them out, and that game was at Michigan.
Ohio State is a threat to be a Final Four team. There's no doubt about it. They're excellent, and it's going to be a very tough game for Maryland. And to me, if Maryland beats Ohio State on Saturday, I don't know how you could vote for Syracuse over Maryland as number 1. I really don't, but that's what will happen.
Syracuse has had some of the more amazing wins. One of the key questions, I'm not sure how good they are. You said you have to be good, you can't be lucky. But my goodness, the run of 1-goal wins is amazing. But you can't play forever like that, Bruce. Sooner or later, when you get down by 5 goals, it's going to get you.
Great Tillman story. First game of the year, and I'm not going to say who they were playing. But the team had a little bit of a run, and they said they were anxious to play us. And Tillman says, I don't think my guys are ready. And, they're taking this game for granted. Final score was 20-3 Maryland. I said, Coach, maybe you're right, but this team's not going to beat you. There's just no way. So he is the most cautious guy that there is when it comes to thought process as to a game. But you're right, he is calm on the sidelines. And he also, I mean, you saw him after the Villanova loss. He wasn't panicking. No. He wasn't upset. God, he wasn't happy.
No, that was a great game. And at the end of that game, we looked at each other and said that was a turning point. Right. That comeback in that game, boy, it was fantastic.
Well, they were coming off that game when they only scored 4 goals against Notre Dame. Then they had the week off because of the snowstorm against Albany. And before you know it, you blinked your eyes, or losing 8-1. Well, in lacrosse, you rarely come back from 8-1. And they didn't. They came back, but they didn't win.
Yep.
Of course, I still say Jared Bernhardt wasn't in the crease, but that's another story. And, of course, the Villanova's guy wasn't in the crease either 2 minutes before.
That's the game that you called after the game. So just watch this game again. And there were so many missed calls, you couldn't pick out that one, which was the Bernhardt goal that wasn't.
I talked to Petramala about that because he had a couple situations like that too. I'm saying the final 4 minutes. All right, let's get to the break. This is Bruce Posner. You're listening to Coons 4 Terp Talk here on CBS Sports Radio 1300.
This is Jim Rome with your Rome. Hernandez died after hanging himself in a prison cell early this morning, according to Massachusetts prisons officials. He was recently acquitted of double murder charges, but he was still serving a life for a murder conviction. Meantime, some close to Hernandez do not believe that he would take his own life. One of his agents, Brian Murphy, tweeted, "Absolutely no chance. Chico was not a saint, but my family and I loved him, and he would never take his own life," end quote. Referring to a convicted murderer as not a saint is fairly general. And when it comes to Aaron Hernandez, I would never use the phrase. However, I don't know what happened in this situation, but I do know this. There is no silver lining here. Everybody loses, and no one really knows where and why it went so wrong for Hernandez and why he ended up ruining so many lives.
Ransomware is software that can infiltrate your business through email, enabling cyber criminals to hijack sensitive information as ransom for your own data's release. Leveraging Barracuda email security with advanced threat detection can stop a ransomware attack in its tracks. As an added measure, Barracuda Backup allows you to recover your data without having to surrender to extortion. Crime doesn't pay. Get your business data with Barracuda. Go to barracuda.com/ransomware to learn more.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Longtime listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, you know, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Kelly Exchange is your one-stop shop for individual and family health insurance coverage. On kellyexchange.com, you can learn about healthcare reform, find out if you qualify for a subsidy, get quotes, compare insurance plans, and purchase coverage. With over 36 years of experience in the insurance industry, kellyexchange.com is the only website you need to help you navigate the complexities and confusion of healthcare reform and purchase quality insurance for you and your family. Visit kellyexchange.com today.
My name is Mark Apple, and I'm a consumer bankruptcy attorney with Waldman, Grossfeld, Apple, and Bear. If you're afraid of losing your home, you're afraid of wages being garnished, call me. 410-437-7711, extension 4, and you'll get to my desk. We have offices located all around the Baltimore Beltway. Call me. Mark Apple, 410-437-7711, extension 4.
There's no better place in Baltimore to buy your new or used car from than Coons Ford on Security Boulevard, across from Security Mall. Over the years, I have purchased many cars and trucks for GM Dennis Colazzos, receiving the best price, service, and comfort in dealing with a top-notch executive. Coons Ford TerpTalk listeners can view their inventory at CoonsFordBaltimore.com. Coons Ford carries a huge inventory of Motor Trend's Car of the Year, the Fusion, Hybrid Escapes, the 35-mile-per-gallon Focus, Mustangs, Expeditions, and of course the F-Series trucks. Coons Ford simply likes to make a little bit of money many times. What a great place to buy your new Ford. That's Coons Ford of Baltimore, 6970 Security Boulevard, across from Security Square Mall. Take exit 17 off of 695. Remember, when you're talking cars, you're talking Coons.
Call 410-298-3800.
No one likes lawyers until they need one. But if you've dealt with an insurance company, you know that you're not in good hands, they're not good neighbors, and they're not on your side. I'm Mike Grossfeld. At Waldman, Grossfeld, Apple, and Bear, we've been protecting the rights of people for over 40 years. If you've been seriously injured in an accident, hurt on the job, or have suffered at the hands of a negligent doctor, call me, Mike Grossfeld, at 888-8-LEGAL-6. That's 888-8-LEGAL-6. We'll fight for you.
Isn't it time for your family to have the services of a financial planner? Call Rob Weissman, a certified financial consultant. Rob has provided financial planning, investments, and insurance products to the Baltimore community for over 28 years. Rob will provide a free consultation, review your financial positions, and make recommendations. He will monitor your financial plan on an ongoing basis. Call Rob Weissman, 410-868-6260. Rob Weissman is a registered representative of Parkland Securities Company, member FINRA SIPC. It's my pleasure to welcome the Supreme Neighborhood Market Gourmet again to the TerpTalk family. Now under the new ownership of Andy Huffman, Gourmet Again on 3717 Old Court Road continues its tradition of being a specialty food market with all meals, soups, and sandwiches being homemade. My family and all of Northwest Baltimore knows that Gourmet Again is the best market around. Let Gourmet Again cater any party or special occasion that you are having. I absolutely love Gourmet Again. Call 410-484-9393. Gourmet Again is open 7 days a week. Visit them on the web at gourmetagain.com. The phone number, once again, 410-484-9393. That's Gourmet Again. Trust, honesty, integrity. That's the motto of Offit & Roth, PA, certified public accountants and business consultants. Clients of Offit & Roth get personalized quality service that is beyond comparison. Check out their extensive list of services at www.offitroth.com. Co-founder Alan Roth and his son Michael, a Maryland graduate, have extensive experience working with clients in virtually every industry. Call Offit & Roth at 410-356-6600. To celebrate the new ownership of Tark's Grill, we would like to announce superb happy hour specials at the hottest bar in Baltimore County, Monday through Friday from 3 to 7 and Sundays from 12 to 7. $3 bottled beer, $5 wine and mixed cocktails, and $6 appetizer specials. The menu is all new with Tark's, but the location at Green Spring Station with loads of free parking is still the same. Tark's has greatly expanded its outside patio and has added an outside bar for the spring and summer. Call Tark's at Green Spring Station, 410-583-8275 for a reservation.
Welcome back to Coons Ford Terp Talk. Call 410-481-1300 now. Once again, here's Bruce Posner.
Hey, back here on the phone while we're waiting for our guest to come on. Is that our guest? Our guest is here now, and that, of course, is Dennis Koulatsis, the operator of Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis, welcome in.
Hey, Bruce, thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure. You know, I ask you as a guy who's somewhat of a Patriot fan. Now, I'm not saying you're a religious Patriot fan, but you're somewhat. And kind of ironic today that the day the Patriots go to the White House, Aaron Hernandez commits suicide in prison. What's your take on that, Dennis?
Just as Bill Belichick said, just a tragic event, just to echo his sentiments. I don't have much commentary on it. A lot of lessons to be learned from what happened, particularly with young people, in terms of the life wasted and talent wasted and doing the right thing. But other than that, I don't have much to say about it. Glad the Patriots made it to the White House. As an NFL fan, I think it's any time an NFL franchise can do that and present themselves well, it's good for the sport, good for the brand. But more so than that, I think we have a lot of much more exciting things to talk about.
No, I agree. And also, a life like he led where it was just heading in that direction isn't the kind of life you want to talk about what somebody does. You want to talk about soldiers who are heroes. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about people like Art Rooney, all right?
Certainly.
Who was just a tremendous asset to the game of football, even though, his teams really busted the Ravens for a long time. But, with the Rooney rule and everything he brought to the NFL, that's where the talk should lie, not with the tragic life of Aaron Hernandez. Wayne, you want to say something?
Great football player. I mean, you can't separate the life of what he did, but on the football field, he was a great football player, not the greatest person. And
so be it. Now, did you see, I don't know if you saw it today, the president's press secretary was going through his spiel.
Sean Spicer.
Right, and Gronkowski walked in, and he said, "Do you need any help?"
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You got to look at that. I mean, Gronkowski is like one of a kind.
Oh, Gronkowski, he was just a WrestleMania. He's just such a big persona, has a huge personality. But just to recap, Art Rooney and Aaron Hernandez, again, this is for young people listening. It's look at what these men attracted in their lives. I mean, one attracted goodness and kindness and prosperity, and the other one nothing but misery. So again, what are you attracting in your life? And that's, who are you surrounding yourself with as a person, and from any walk of life? And if you if you're attracting good things in your life, good things will happen. And if you're attracting bad things in your life, bad things will happen, and they will manifest themselves as such.
Well said. Let's move on to the Ravens situation. The draft's coming up, Dennis, and we always want you involved. Mel Kiper names the following 3 guys who the Ravens will look for. Mel Kiper says the first pick will be Takarist McKinley from UCLA. This changes every day, by the way. What's your take on him, Dennis?
He's a very good edge rusher. I don't know that 16 is a proper spot for him. I think he's probably in the 22 to 26 range, maybe a little lower than that. I just don't have him that high. And in a draft full of really good pass rushers, edge rushers, it's a deep draft. I certainly wouldn't consider him at 16. I think it's way too high for him.
A number 2 pick, according to Kiper or ESPN, Tywan Taylor, a receiver from Western Kentucky, supposedly a great route runner. Hello?
I'm sorry, Bruce. I got disconnected for a second.
Okay.
Again, in round 2, there's other receivers that I would consider above him. Not sure that he would be my pick as well. But I like Mel, but that would not be my pick in round 2.
Todd McShay says first pick should be Cam Robinson, offensive tackle from Alabama.
We can do a lot worse. I think the Ravens will go offensive tackle or wide receiver with that number 16 pick if they stand still because, again, it's a draft. You can get a pass rusher in the 2nd or 3rd round. Same thing with a cornerback and same thing with a safety. But you got to get that offensive tackle, wide receiver in rounds 1 and 2. Lots of people are mocking the Ravens to trade back and acquire even more picks in this deep draft. That could happen. Pro Football Focus, in fact, had them trading twice in the 1st round, trading backwards and picking up 2 additional picks in the 3rd round, which could happen. It's going to be a wild and woolly draft, Bruce, because of the quarterbacks. You have 4 quarterbacks that will go high, and as these guys start to slide, teams will jockey for position to pick one of them up because everybody's has these quarterbacks graded in a very different order. They value them differently. So if Deshaun Watson gets past number 10, you can bet the Ravens' phone will start ringing very quickly.
So you talked about quarterbacks. I want to get to Trubisky in a moment. Mm-hmm. But on the other side of the Baltimore-Washington Parkway, where the Redskins are, Mel Kiper has the Redskins going for Christian McCaffrey. At one point, you and I talked about the tailback from Florida State seemed to be done at 17. Christian McCaffrey, a little guy. Do you think he's the 17th best player in this draft?
You know what, Wade, that's a great point. I've seen him mocked as high as number 9 to the Bengals. So it depends on where these front offices, these scouting departments have these running backs valued, between McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook and Leonard Fournette. I mean, they all have great things about them, great positives and attributes, but they also have some flags. And, look, I think the Redskins have other needs more pressing than running back at this point. I don't think he wouldn't be my pick. They have some offensive line and defensive line situations where they can shore up their team. I don't know that running back. You can get a running back in the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round.
You can get running backs all over the place, but as for the Redskins, who can't tackle anybody, I'd pick a 5'8" running back too. I mean, they need people who can tackle somebody. So obviously, you would pick if they could find a smaller running back. Maybe they can trade McCaffrey for Darren Sproles and just call it a day. That's the smallest guy you can get.
That reminded me of Lee Corso, the former Indiana coach. They asked him why he always recruited small running backs, and he said, because my offensive line makes small holes.
Hey, Dennis, talk about Mitch Trubisky. Out of the clear blue sky, could this guy become the number 1 pick?
I don't know how Wayne feels about him, but I have him as my top-rated, game-ready quarterback in this draft. He's the only one that can go through progression. He's the only one that can read a defense properly. He's not a system quarterback. He is plug and play. I can see him being the 1st or 2nd pick in this draft. I can see the Browns taking him. I can certainly see the Niners taking him. He's the best quarterback in the draft, and he's not going to take a lot of time to develop. He's very smart, has all the attributes you're looking for. He'll go. I'll be shocked if he doesn't go top 3. I think there's been a lot of smoke screens, and he hasn't been talked a lot about. He doesn't have the star power that a Deshaun Watson has for sure, but I still think he'll be the first quarterback off the board.
I could probably agree with you, but there's one other thing I like about him, and that is he shows up at North Carolina. Their other 4 or 5-star quarterback, Caleb Henderson, decides he's not going to play at Carolina. He transfers to Maryland. So he could be a 2-for-1 for us. He gives Maryland a quarterback, and I agree that he's the only one that looks like an NFL quarterback because of the accuracy and his ability to hit the spots and pre-read the snap that the other kids don't seem to have yet.
Again, update on Will Likely. Is he still a 7th-round pick or a high free agent, or could he move?
Yeah, nothing has changed. Will Likely's status is right there. He'll be an undrafted free agent, a priority undrafted free agent. Somebody will pick him up very quickly just based on what he did returning punts and kickoffs. But and somebody may take him in the 7th round. As I said before, he's better off being undrafted in that case. That way he can pick and choose the situation versus going to a team that that he maybe like Cleveland that he shouldn't go to.
Right. All right, Dennis, what's happening to Coons Ford? I noticed again must be 150 escapes there, and just loaded with cars. But you don't have that one car I care about, and that's the one I'm buying. I heard we got an order report today.
We got an update. When my guys saw you pull up in the parking lot, they got on the phone right away.
They started to scamper.
What car are you looking for?
I'm buying Kathy an electric car. So obviously they don't have a ton of them in stock.
The C-Max?
No, the Ford Focus, 100% electric.
Oh, cool.
100-mile range, and very excited about it. Yeah. Except it's hard to get, isn't it, Dennis?
It is, but they scatter like roaches when you turn on the light. You know what I mean? They just started scrambling and got on the horn and said, "Hey, where's Mr. Bowser's new electric Focus?" But it's going to get built and it's going to be delivered to our store, and it'll be your 50th or 55th purchase. I've lost track.
Is it going to be ahead of the date they said, or will it be right around where they said?
We're right around. They're usually on target when they give us a date.
Okay. Well.
Yep.
The incentives I've gotten and the incentives for electric cars are leaving. So, if you want one, there's still time left, I would say, to get on top of it. But I like having that $14,000 or $12,000 rebate, whatever it is. And it sounds pretty good, and it's a great purchase for anybody. Dennis, I noticed when I was there, they're in line at your shop. It's unbelievable, and you don't have to wait a long time. Is there expansion involved for Coons Ford Service Department?
Well, there's expansion, but it's in lengthening the hours, Bruce. We have 47 service bays, and we're going to extend the hours, and we're adding a night shift now. So that way technicians, we have some technicians coming in that we're actually recruiting, and anybody listening out there is certainly, if you're a technician, and your schedule is one where maybe you want to take your kids to school in the morning or something like that, we're going to have technicians working on vehicles throughout the night, which is great for our customers, our fleet customers in particular. They can drop it off at night, pick it up in the morning. There's no downtime. They can continue about their business the next day.
Unbelievable. And I will tell Wayne, I'm in the 35 and over club at Coons Ford. That when you buy more than 35 cars, I get a free red Coons Ford pullover. Right, Dennis?
Absolutely. Looks like a Maryland Terps pullover, except for the logo is different. Instead of the turtles, you get the crown.
All right. Well, you wouldn't be upset if I stuck a little Terps logo on the other side, would you?
Not at all. I'd be honored.
All right, Dennis, thanks a lot for coming on today, and we'll talk to you soon, my friend. Tell everybody where they can find you on the dial.
They can find me on the dial, up and down from you on Thursdays, and of course you're always a great guest. You'll be on there tomorrow, 4:30 Eastern Time, because our show is heard all around the world, the global network. But 410-218-0337 is my cell number. www.coonsfordbaltimore.com is our website. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. Give me a call. You'd be glad you did.
All right, Dennis, thanks a lot for coming on. As always, it's a pleasure.
Thank you, Ted. It's pleasure on line. Go Ravens, go Terps.
All right. Wayne, are we going to break?
Are we not? I think I've got one Terp. No,
a couple minutes, then we'll go to break. Go ahead.
So we'll put the music back in the can. Sean Obi, the former Rice player.
He didn't commit.
He did not commit, but it's down to a recruiting battle between the Patrick Ewing-led Georgetown Hoyas and our own Maryland Terrapins. He's down to 2 schools, so we're in the final 2. Talking about a 22-year-old from Kaduna, Nigeria, about 6'10", 260. So the banger role for the Terps could be filled.
Are you hearing rumors about maybe Patrick Ewing might be looking at Juan Dixon as an assistant?
I didn't hear that. That'd be a good move.
It wouldn't be a good move for Maryland.
No, it'd be a good move for Juan Dixon, who is now the women's coach at UDC, the Flames.
Right. How'd he do?
He had a very young team when last I checked in. We talked to Ernie Graham about this a couple of weeks ago. We had dinner with him and said that he just had a very young team, and so he had to go out and recruit and start that all over again. So I guess fine for him, but moving back to Georgetown would be good. I'm not sure if Patrick Ewing is going to be a great college coach, but hey, the recruiting battles are starting.
Yeah, but I think he will be a great college coach because he's a great guy. I've had the fortune of meeting him a few times, and he's a big guy, but he's a soft, what do you say? He's a soft tiger. I mean, he's really a nice guy.
Right. You got him next to Thompson. You got one heck of a front line for coaches. They're both big guys.
Yeah, well, Thompson obviously loves Patrick Ewing, not like he loves his son, but Patrick Ewing is a great guy. I was very fortunate one time to meet him and spend some time with him, and I went away highly impressed. Grayson Allen's coming back to Duke. I know he doesn't have his right mind, but why would he come back?
I don't know.
I mean, he's projected second round. He's not. After what he's been through, he's never going to move up to the first round, I don't think.
There's going to be questions about why he does what he does. He doesn't even seem to know why he does. I guess it's going to be a long trip at Duke for him the whole 4 years.
All right, with that, we'll head out to our second break. This is Bruce Posner. You're listening to Coons 4 Terp Talk this Wednesday, every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock rather. I'm thinking about 7 o'clock because it's Judgment Day for a certain local team named the Washington Capitals. Has the term Judgment Day ever been more applicable?
No, it has not, and we'll talk about that on the other side of the break.
Back in a few minutes.
If things in your life are looking blurry, there's only one place to go to see straight again, and that's Levin Eye Care. Dr. Howard Levin and Dr. Richard Levin, both University of Maryland alums, have 35 years of combined experience in serving the eye care needs of their patients. With 2 great offices in Perry Hall and Parkville, these doctors can address any concerns about your vision. Call 410-529-1950 to set up an appointment. Levin Eye Care accepts most medical insurance, including Medicare.
I just discovered a great little neighborhood gourmet pizza and Italian-type restaurant in the harbor area. Bagby Pizza on 1006 Fleet Street is just a great, fun place to have lunch or dinner 7 days a week. Bagby's features gourmet pizza, pastas, and salads at more than reasonable prices. Service is quick, there's plenty of seating, happy hour specials Monday through Friday, 4 to 7 p.m. But most important, the food is superb. Bagby Pizza, 410-605-0444.
At Baltimore Neurosurgery and Spine Center, the professionals provide the highest quality care to the patients. My friends over at Baltimore Neurosurgery and Spine Center are fellowship-trained, board-certified neurosurgeons and interventional pain specialists that specialize in treating all spinal and intracranial disorders with more than 20 years of combined experience. The practice is founded by Dr. Ira Goranczyk and his partner, Jim Conway. These 2 doctors are perennial Baltimore's top doctors. Not only do they perform complex inpatient procedures, but they also specialize in minimally invasive outpatient surgeries. If you're having problems with your neck or back, call my good friends Dr. Ira Goranczyk and Dr. James Conway at Baltimore Neurosurgery and Spine Center, 410-664-3680. Once again, that's Baltimore's best neurosurgeons at 410-664-3680. The third Bagby's has just opened in the new Foundry Row in Owings Mills. Signature super Bagby's pizzas, salads, sandwiches, pastas, and yes, even submarines. Hey, did I forget meatball subs? Bagby's Foundry Row is similar to the original Bagby's in Harbor East. Also featured next door is the Bagby Group-operated Foundry Row Wine and Spirits. 2 more winners for the Bagby's chain. Call 410-356-7226. That's Bagby's on Reisterstown Road in Owings Mills. Cunningham's of the Bagby's chain has been declared as one of the best restaurants in town. Located at 1 Olympic Place in Towson, Cunningham's has free valet parking and is open every night. The decor and atmosphere at Cunningham's makes you feel that you are part of a happening event. Using a wood-fired grill and oven, Cunningham's provides its guests
with dishes created from the freshest seasonal and local ingredients possible. Call 410-339-7730 for a reservation. Bruce Posner here with a message brought to you by Chesapeake Urology. Guys, if you broke your right arm, would you just say, heck, I'll live with it, and make do with the left? Of course not. So why is it so many men with erectile dysfunction throw up their hands, assume it's just a part of getting older, and choose to live with it? The experts at Chesapeake Urology have treatments that can help virtually all men resume a normal sex life. Whether you're 48, 64, or 84, their doctors specialize in ED, and most treatments are covered by insurance. Even if you've tried pills without success, the specialists at Chesapeake Urology can show you better treatments. Don't live with something you don't have to. Call Chesapeake Urology at 877-422-8237. That's 877-422-8237. Situated at One Olympic Place in Towson, Cunningham's Cafe and Bakery offers handcrafted breakfast, lunch, and coffee in a casual setting. Featuring house-baked breads and pastries, roasted coffees, and locally sourced eggs and produce from Cunningham Farms, the Cafe and Bakery is the perfect spot for a quick meal or snack. Parking is free across the street. Open 7 days a week. Call Cunningham's Bakery and Cafe, 410-339-7750. The Bagby's chain has opened up the new Bagby's Pizza and Woodhome Festival. It's pizzas and salads the way you want it. Get the Big Cheesy for $5.99 or make your own for a little more. 4 sauces, many toppings, super salads, meatball specials. What a great, affordable pizzeria. Call the new Bagby's Pizza at 443-379-0566. That's the new Bagby's Pizza at 443-379-0566.
Join 105.7 The Fan May 6th and 7th for the Towson Town Spring Festival. Check out the Petro Home Services Plaza, the Ackerman Security Kids Zone, and win great prizes courtesy of Cricket Wireless, BGE Home, and the Marines.
This is Coons Ford TerpTalk. Call 410-481-1300 now. Once again, here's Bruce Posner.
All right, back to talk about the Washington Capitals.
Okay, so I came in, I got my Caps jersey here. I've been doing this since 1976. Now, they started in 74, and I'm almost convinced they will never, ever win anything of consequence other than the best record in the regular season.
Well, last year when Maryland lost to North Carolina, which I'll be honest with you, I still don't believe they lost the game, to be honest with you. I mean, to watch them play Carolina this year, and the game was a joke.
Yep.
I still don't believe they lost the game.
Number 45 had the best game anybody ever had.
Cloutier.
Yeah.
All right, forget it. They lost. When the game was over, I was beyond depressed. I texted you. Yep. I said, I'm going home.
Right. So you coming on the field, you're like, no, I'm leaving.
I'm going home.
Left.
And then I get a call that night from Anderson. Are you okay? From Kevin Anderson.
I was wondering
after the game.
Right.
I was beside as I was driving home. I said to myself, "That's it. I can't go through this anymore." And it took me about 3 days to get over it. When I started to think about Rambo, Maltz, and Heacock on the line, and so, memory. You have to have a short memory in sports, but the Caps are different.
This has been going
because the Caps if the Caps had lost 9 Stanley Cups, like Maryland has lost 9 championship games, all right, that's not as bad as what it's not great that Maryland's lost 9 championship games.
So they
had a lot of wins along the way to get there.
The Caps have won a record number of regular season games and points, and they've got some of the most recognizable players on the planet for hockey.
But we keep saying they're not built for the playoffs.
They're not built for the playoffs. Late last year, I saw the Penguins come in before the playoffs, and I watched the first period of that game and said, oh, my God, the Penguins are so fast. I've never seen anything like this. I went to the game 1 at Verizon Center, and looked at the Leafs and went, oh, my God, these guys, they're almost as fast as the Penguins. Caps don't do well against that. They got rid of their big, tough guys. They got smaller, sort of tough guys, third and fourth line guys that have contributed nothing in this series.
Brooks Orpik looked like he was in slow motion.
The defensemen, Niskanen and Orpik, they're old. 29, 30 years old in hockey is old. They're playing against 19, 20-year-old kids who have more hop on the puck. The longer these games go, the Caps just seem to get exposed. They can't control the puck, and they put in the defensive lines, And then people say, well, Ovechkin doesn't play a lot.
Well, it's
Backstrom
Wednesday
doesn't
night.
play a
The
lot.
game's in 10 minutes. Who's going to win the game?
Caps are going to win because this hasn't been painful enough. You can't just lose the series 4-1. You have to go all the way to the 7th game and then have something that's incredibly ridiculous happen. And then go, oh my God, I've never seen that before. Darn it, it's like Lucy pulling the football away from Charlie Brown. You have to be devastated. It's not enough for Maryland to lose to Carolina. They had to go to overtime, Bruce. They had to rip your heart out. The Caps can't just lose 4-1. You got to lose in the last second on a shot that hits the glass, hits Holtby in the back of the head, and rolls in the net. And you go, oh, of course, it's the Caps. I feel like Gilbert Gottfried. I'm getting upset. Between the Hopkins thing and this Maryland thing, I've just had it with us.
Let me ask you a question. All right? Let me ask you a question while we talk about the Maryland thing. How many times have you seen Connor Kelly take a shot from about 12 feet out when it's one-on-one with him, the goalie, and how many times does it go in the net?
He's probably
every time
80% guy.
Maybe
when he
90.
shot, but when I was standing almost right even with him on the sideline, ready to run on the field, and when he shot it, I was going no. It was out of rhythm for them. It just wasn't. He took too long. He walked into it. He's a very quick shooter. When you look at Connor Kelly, he shoots quickly. Heacock winds up and fires it by you. Connor Kelly's quick.
Well, anyway. Whatever.
Whatever. So there's a game tonight. There's
I dwell on that, don't I,
Danny? Whatever.
Danny never even knew they played last year. Now
right. He just thought we come in the studio and cried all the time.
Have you seen that show Brockmire yet?
Oh, so good.
Oh, Wayne,
so good.
go to Demand. It's on the international. What's the IFC?
IFC.
And it's about a guy who had a breakdown on the air. You'll love it.
It's basically Hank Azaria replaying his Simpsons fake baseball announcer voice, which is spot on. Which is just spot on for all those old campy.
That voice is really real. I mean, it could be a baseball voice. It's like a mixture of a Vince Scully and somebody. You're
well, the skies of cerulean tonight, and we say, hey, now that we're talking about baseball, tell me what the Orioles are doing this week. It might cheer me up.
Hey, 9-3 Orioles. Listen, I love this team, and you know what? Big deal. They lost the game yesterday.
Gosman had one bad start.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that's an understatement. But Dempsey picked it apart. He said that he wasn't turning properly or something. Did you see that after the game?
Well, I know the frustrating thing for a lot of fans is that he's not really attacking hitters right now. I mean, he's very much on nickel and diming, trying, but I don't know. I mean, you can't feel anything but encouraged after that weekend series in Toronto.
So talk to me about Trey Mancini. Is he that good, or is
he's the phenom? He's my favorite upstart Oriole since Nolan Reimold in 2009.
Who's the odd man out because of him?
It's hard to say anything but Gentry right now. But Gentry's speed and the fact that he manufactured that tying run by himself in the 9th inning on Saturday.
But the 134 batting average or whatever. Yeah. By the way, Danny Kidoo joining in as our Orioles expert here.
Yeah, he's not too much joining in on lacrosse.
No, he really doesn't.
I know my role.
All right, Terps. The Terps baseball team swept Penn State.
Right,
playing unbelievable. I mean, to sweep anybody in really any sport is great. They're 7-2 in the Big Ten. Big 3-game series coming up this weekend. The Wizards play tonight at 7:00.
They look good. Hey, I got out there to see them. I've spent a lot of time at Verizon Center lately.
Listen, they look good. And now they're going to get the Celtics are going to be out.
Could be the Bulls.
And they have dominated the Bulls this year. And
so did the Celtics.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure what happened there, but I'll take my chances against the Bulls.
Maryland women's lacrosse, is that Penn State tomorrow?
Penn State tomorrow. Maybe their only tough game until they have to probably play them again in the tournament. They've been just annihilating teams.
Okay.
After they lose Taylor Cummings.
Okay, so we're running out of time here.
And we didn't even get to my main subject of the day, so you have to wait till Saturday because we'll talk about it then, is this new recruiting rule that now is official. That is like the biggest thing, and I'm going to tell everybody on Saturday why it's a great thing for the men's team and why what's behind it could have been an attack on the women's team.
All right, there's 2 recruiting changes. There's another signing day for football, and what Bruce was talking about is the lacrosse recruiting rules have changed. You got about 10 seconds. The Caps make it tonight? And
yes, the Caps win the next 3 games. That's my call. This is Bruce Posner signing off. Remember, we'll be back Saturday on Coons Ford Presents The Sports Maven.